Let me tell you something that will change your life and the lives of your children forever if you actually let it sink in. Most people are working their entire lives just to be the last one in their family tree to ever see a significant paycheck. They follow the traditional path, get a job, buy a house, work until they're 67, and hope there's enough left in the bank to pay for a funeral and maybe leave a few $1,000s to their kids. But here's the harsh truth. By the time that money reaches the next generation, inflation has already eaten half of it, and the lack of financial education will finish off the rest. I've seen this happen time and time again. My own father was one of the hardest working people I've ever known, working factory jobs and side hustles just to provide for us. He stashed money away in a shoebox in a bank account that paid 0 interest, thinking he was being safe. But he was actually playing the riskiest game of all, the game of losing value every single year to inflation. He never reached the tipping point where his money worked for him. If you want your children to be among the 1%, the entrepreneurs, the investors, and the owners, you have to stop thinking like an employee who just earns a salary. You need to understand that if you don't own something, you are what's owned. This video is going to create a legacy for your family because I'm going to break down the exact 3-stage process I use to go from zero to a multi-millionaire and how you can set up a system so your children never have to start from scratch like I did. Why not use this video as a test for yourself? If you can reach the end without skipping, you're already in the minority of people who actually have the willpower to change their family's future. Level 1. Building the wealth engine. Before you can pass wealth down, you have to build the engine that creates it. Most people make this harder than it needs to be. They jump into the latest get-rich-quick crypto scheme or try day trading with money they can't afford to lose. That's not a strategy, that's gambling. To build generational wealth, you need to follow what I call the 25-50-15-10 rule. It doesn't matter if you're making $1,000 a month or $10,000. The percentages are what keep you sustainable. 25% for growth. This is the money that works for you. You use this to buy assets that increase in value, index funds, individual stocks, or property. 50% for essentials. This covers your rent, your bills, and your transport. If your essentials are more than 50%, you aren't overworking. You're overspending on a lifestyle you haven't earned yet. 15% for stability. This goes into your emergency fund and your sleep well at night cash. 10% for joy. This is your fun money. You must spend this every month so you don't feel like you're depriving yourself, which is the main reason most people quit their financial plans. The goal of level 1 is to reach your freedom figure, the target amount where your assets generate enough income to cover your basic lifestyle. Once you hit that tipping point, you have true freedom. But for your children, we're going to take it a step further. We're going to start their snowball before they can even walk. If I had started my first investment at 13 instead of 18, I would have made my first million much faster. Time in the market is the hand-down most important factor. In the next session, I'm going to show you exactly how to set up the legal structures and accounts that let your children's wealth grow tax-free while you sleep. Now that you've got the engine running and you're starting to stack capital, we need to talk about the part most people completely ignore until it's too late: building a fortress around that wealth. There is no point in working 60 hours a week and sacrificing your weekends if the government and the lifestyle creep are just going to take 40% of everything you intend to leave behind. Listen, the wealthy don't just save money, they structure it. If you just leave $1 million in a standard bank account for your child when you pass away, you are essentially handing a huge chunk of your life's work back to the state in inheritance tax. That's not a legacy. That's a donation to a system that didn't help you build it. I remember when my uncle first started investing. He was doing well, but he was doing it all in his own name without any tax protection. Every time he made a profit, he was hit with capital gains. Every dividend was taxed. He was running a race with a parachute open behind him. I realized then that if I wanted to reach freedom in my 20s, I had to learn the rules of the game that the 1% play. Level 2. Protecting and growing the seed. This is where we move from being a warrior who earns to a master who preserves. To pass on wealth, you have to stop thinking of your children as receivers of money in the future and start thinking of them as owners of assets today. The first thing you need to do, and I mean today, not next month, is set up a custodial account. Depending on where you live, this might be called a UGMA, a UTMA, or a junior ISA. This is a legal structure where you are the manager, but your child is the owner. Here is why this is a cheat code for generational wealth: the time arbitrage. If you invest just $200 a month into an index fund for your child from the day they are born, by the time they hit 20, they aren't just looking at a few $1,000s. Because of the power of compounding, the snowball snowball effect, that money has been doubling and tripling while they were still learning to ride a bike. Tax efficiency. In many of these accounts, the growth is tax-free or taxed at the child's lower rate. You are essentially moving money from your high-tax world into their low-tax or zero-tax world. But we aren't going to stop there. If you really want to play at the 1% level, you look into a Roth IRA for kids, if they have any earned income from a part-time job or modeling for your business. Imagine your child reaching retirement age with $5 million that the government cannot touch. That is how you break the cycle of poverty forever. However, there is a danger here. Most people think that just handing over a massive account to an 18-year-old is a good idea. It isn't. It's the fastest way to turn a hard-working legacy into a lotto winner tragedy. I've seen kids inherit $100K and blow it on a depreciating sports car and bottle service in 6 months because they had the money but not the mindset. That's why level 2 isn't just about the accounts, it's about the family trust. A trust is a legal container that holds your assets. You can set the rules. You can say, my children get access to this money only for university, starting a business, or a down payment on a home. You become the ghost CEO of your family's future, ensuring the money is used to build more wealth, not just consumed. If you've made it this far, you're showing the kind of focus that 99% of people lack. You're actually treating your family's future like a business. In the final section, I'm going to reveal the secret sauce, the one thing more valuable than the money itself. Because if you give your kids $1 million without this one thing, you've actually given them a curse, not a blessing. Now we come to the part that actually matters. You can set up the trusts, you can automate the index funds, and you can build a massive real estate portfolio. But if you don't do this one thing, you are just setting your children up for a very expensive failure. Here is a statistic that should keep you up at night. 70% of wealthy families lose their wealth by the second generation, and 90% lose it by the third. That is a staggering failure rate. It means that for 9 out of 10 families, all the sacrifice, the late nights, and the disciplined investing of the founder is completely wiped out in less than 100 years. Why does this happen? It's because the parents focused on the how of money but forgot the why. They gave their children the fruit of the tree but never taught them how to plant the seeds. I've seen this personally with people I grew up with. One guy I knew inherited a successful family construction business. He didn't understand the work it took to build it, so he treated the business like a personal ATM. Within 5 years, the equipment was sold off, the staff were let go, and he was back to zero. He had $1 million bank account but a $0 mindset. Level 3, the financial education system. If you want your legacy to last 100 years and beyond, you have to treat your children's financial education like a core school subject. Since the school system isn't going to do it because they're too busy teaching them how to be good employees, it's 100% on you. Here is the secret sauce system I recommend for teaching your kids about money, starting from as young as 5 years old. It's called the 3-jar method. Every time your child receives money, whether it's for chores, a birthday, or a small side hustle, they have to split it into 3 jars. The giving jar, 10%, this teaches them that money is a tool for impact, not just consumption. It builds a healthy relationship with wealth where they don't become Mr. Grumpy hoarding every penny. The savings jar, 40%, this is for big purchases. It teaches delayed gratification, the single most important trait for success. If they want that new game console, they have to wait and see the money grow. The investing jar, 50%. This money never gets spent. This is the snowball. You sit down with them, open up that custodial account we talked about in section 2, and let them choose a company they actually use, like Apple, Disney, or Roblox. When they see that they own a tiny piece of the company that makes their favorite things, the light bulb goes on. They stop being a consumer and start being an owner. As they get older, you elevate the lessons. By the time they are 15, they should understand how to read a basic profit and loss statement. By 18, they should know the difference between good debt used to buy assets and bad debt used to buy clothes and cars. The 100-year vision. The goal isn't just to make your children rich. The goal is to create a family bank mentality. You want to reach a point where your family's wealth is so structured that it functions like its own economy. The money in the trust isn't for buying Ferraris, it's for low-interest loans to family members who want to start businesses or buy homes. This is how the great dynasties, the ones that last centuries, actually operate. They don't just leave a pile of cash, they leave a set of values and a system of accountability. If you've watched all 3 sections of this video, you now have a roadmap that 99.9% of the population will never see. You know how to build the engine, how to protect it with a fortress, and how to program the next generation to keep it running. The only thing left to do is to take that first step. Don't be the person who just consumes this information and does nothing. Be the producer who builds a legacy. Remember, the best time to start was 20 years ago. The second best time is today. If you want to know which specific index funds I use to grow my wealth every single week, I'm going to leave that video right up there. But don't click on it just yet. Make sure you've hit that subscribe button and rang the bell so you don't miss any of our wealth building deep dives. Okay, I'll see you over there.